Let me ask you something directly. How many medications are you taking right now? 1, 3, 5? More? Because if you are over 60 and taking any regular prescription, what I'm about to share with you today is something I genuinely wish more doctors had time to say. Not because it is complicated, because it is actually quite simple, and because I have watched it make a real difference in people's lives. Here is the situation. 5 of the most commonly prescribed medications in America, medications that millions of perfectly healthy, responsible seniors take every single morning, have been linked in research to memory changes in adults over 60. Not in everyone, not always dramatically, but quietly, gradually, in ways that most people chalk up to getting older. And here is what gets me. There are foods, regular grocery store foods, that most of you already buy that research suggests can protect your brain while you stay on the medications you need. Nobody is connecting these dots at the pharmacy counter. Nobody is connecting them in the 15-minute doctor's appointment. So that is what we are doing today. Now, before I go any further, I want to be very direct about something. I am not here to scare you away from your medications. Please do not stop anything you are taking based on this video. Your doctor prescribed those medications for real reasons, and stopping without guidance can cause serious harm. What I am sharing today is nutritional. It works alongside your prescriptions. Alongside, not instead of. My name is Dr. William Chen. I spend my work studying how nutrition and daily habits interact with the aging brain, and I am genuinely glad you are here today. Drop your name, your age, and the city you are watching from in the comments. Tell me how many medications you take daily. I read every single comment, and your answers genuinely shape what I cover next. The one thing you need to understand first. I will keep this short because I know you came here for the practical information, not a lecture. Here is the one thing that explains everything else I'm about to tell you. After 60, your body processes medications more slowly. Your liver and kidneys, the systems that clear drugs from your bloodstream, work at maybe 60 to 70% of the efficiency they had in your 40s. So the same pill that felt perfectly fine at 50 is now staying in your system longer, at a higher effective concentration, interacting with a brain that is already working harder to maintain the same sharpness it once had. It is not that these medications are bad. It is that your body, after 60, is a different environment than it was before, and most prescribing guidelines were built around younger bodies. That is it. That is all the context you need. Now, let us get into the medications, and more importantly, what to eat. Medication number 5, the one sitting in almost every medicine cabinet. I want to start with one that surprises almost everyone I bring it up with. Diphenhydramine. You know it as Benadryl. You might also know it as the active ingredient in ZzzQuil, Unisom, Tylenol PM, and a dozen other over-the-counter sleep aids. Millions of seniors use it regularly, not because a doctor prescribed it, but because it is cheap, available everywhere, and seems gentle. Here is what the research tells us. Diphenhydramine works by blocking acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that plays a central role in how your brain forms and retrieves memories. When acetylcholine gets blocked, the memory system does not stop working entirely, but it gets less reliable. Names get harder to find, conversations get harder to follow. Things you would normally remember without effort start requiring effort. I had a patient, I will call her Margaret, 72 years old, retired school principal from Columbus, Ohio. Sharp woman, decades of managing hundreds of students and staff. Her daughter brought her in because she had noticed her mother repeating herself in conversation, forgetting names she had known for years, losing track of what she had said moments before. When I sat with Margaret and went through everything she was taking daily, right there at the end of the list was a nightly antihistamine. She had been taking it for sleep for nearly 3 years. She did not even think of it as a medication, really, just something she took at bedtime. I asked her to speak with her physician about alternatives for sleep, and I asked her to start eating 2 soft poached eggs every morning and keep a small bag of sunflower seeds nearby for an afternoon snack. Why those 2 foods specifically? Eggs and sunflower seeds are among the richest sources of choline you can eat, and choline is the raw material your brain uses to produce acetylcholine, the exact neurotransmitter diphenhydramine was blocking. You are essentially restocking the factory while the medication is running down the inventory. At Margaret's 10-week follow-up, her daughter pulled me aside before we even sat down. She said she is back. Not completely, but noticeably. Margaret herself said she felt less foggy in the mornings than she had in years. One more thing about those eggs. Do not hard-boil them. Soft poached or lightly scrambled. Research suggests the leucine bioavailability, and with it the choline content, is meaningfully higher from soft-cooked eggs than hard-boiled. A small detail that actually matters. And pair them with spinach in olive oil if you can. The folate in spinach works alongside choline in the same neurotransmitter production pathway. You are not just refilling one ingredient, you are supporting the entire process. Type the number 2 in the comments right now if you take any antihistamine regularly, whether it is for allergies during the day or sleep at night. Medication number 4, the most prescribed heart medication in America. Statins, atorvastatin, simvastatin, rosuvastatin. If you are over 60, there is a reasonable chance you or someone at your dinner table takes one of these. I want to be careful here because the research on statins and cognition is genuinely complex. Some studies find associations with cognitive symptoms. Others suggest potential neuroprotective effects. The honest answer is that it depends on the individual. But what I do know, and what I see clinically, is that some adults over 60 on statins develop a mental slowness that was not there before, a delay, a fogginess, and they assume it is just aging. Here is what may be happening. Statins work by inhibiting an enzyme involved in cholesterol production. But that same enzyme is also involved in producing CoQ10, a compound your mitochondria need to generate cellular energy. Your brain cells are extraordinarily energy hungry. When CoQ10 gets depleted, brain cell energy production becomes less efficient. The lights stay on, but they get a little dimmer. I had a patient, Gerald, 68 years old, retired engineer from Scottsdale, Arizona, precise thinker his whole career, 6 years on a statin. He came in describing what he called a processing delay, like his thoughts were arriving half a second late. His cardiologist had told him the statin was non-negotiable for his cardiovascular health, and I agreed with that entirely. What I asked Gerald to do was add fatty fish twice a week, sardines, salmon, mackerel, and a small handful of walnuts every single day, 7 or 8 halves. That is genuinely all. The omega-3 DHA in fatty fish is the primary structural fat in brain cell membranes. When those membranes are well supplied with DHA, they stay flexible and efficient. Walnuts add plant-based omega-3 alongside polyphenols that research suggests support mitochondrial function, the same energy system that CoQ10 depletion compromises. 8 weeks later, Gerald told me the delay had reduced substantially. His wife confirmed it independently in the same appointment. Same statin, same dose. Just 2 food additions. Drizzle olive oil on your fish when you eat it. The oleocanthal in extra virgin olive oil works alongside omega-3 in complementary anti-inflammatory pathways in brain tissue. It takes 30 seconds and costs almost nothing. Medication number 3. Blood pressure medication and your brain's fuel supply. Beta blockers. Metoprolol, atenolol, propranolol. Prescribed for blood pressure, heart rhythm, heart failure. Essential medications for millions of seniors. Here is what I want you to understand. Beta blockers work by reducing the force and speed of your heartbeat, which lowers blood pressure throughout your body. For your heart and your arteries, this is often exactly what is needed. But your brain, after 60, is already receiving less blood flow than it did at 45. And some adults find that reducing cardiovascular output further, even to healthy levels, tips their brain into a range where it is not getting quite enough oxygen and glucose to perform at its best. The result can feel like mental fatigue, slower thinking, a kind of effortfulness to cognitive tasks that used to feel automatic. Many people assume this is just aging. Sometimes it is the medication interacting with an aging brain that needed every drop of blood flow it was getting. The nutritional response here is about supporting your blood vessel's own ability to stay open and responsive, independent of the pump pressure coming from the heart. Dietary nitrates do this. Beetroot, spinach, arugula, celery. These foods are converted by bacteria in your mouth and gut into nitric oxide, a molecule that signals blood vessel walls to relax and stay wide open. You are essentially helping your brain's blood vessels do more with the pressure they are receiving. 2 cups of spinach daily. A small glass of beetroot juice 3 times a week. Always with something containing vitamin C. Squeeze lemon juice over your spinach. Eat a bell pepper alongside your beetroot. Vitamin C stabilizes nitric oxide and extends how long the blood vessels stay dilated after you eat. It is a small daily habit, but for adults on beta blockers, whose brains are working on reduced blood flow pressure, it can make a meaningful difference. Type the number 3 in the comments if you take blood pressure medication and have noticed mental fatigue or slower thinking that never really got addressed.
Medication number 2, what your sleep medication does while you rest. This one is important, and I want to take a moment with it because I see it so often. Zolpidem, Ambien, Azopiclone, and on the older end, alprazolam, lorazepam, the benzodiazepines prescribed for anxiety and sleep. These are some of the most widely used medications among adults over 60 worldwide. They work by enhancing GABA, your brain's main inhibitory signal, the chemical that quiets overactive neural circuits and allows sleep to occur. The problem with using medication to enhance GABA long-term is that your brain's own GABA regulation can become dependent on the external push. And critically, Z-drugs like Zolpidem appear to reduce the proportion of deep, slow-wave sleep, even while producing the sensation of sleep. Why does that matter? Because deep, slow-wave sleep is when your brain runs its overnight cleaning cycle. There is a system called the glymphatic system, only discovered relatively recently, that uses the slow-wave sleep period to flush metabolic waste, including beta-amyloid, from between your neurons. When that deep sleep gets suppressed by medication, the cleaning cycle gets shortened. Night after night, week after week, the waste accumulates. I had a patient, Dorothy, 74 years old, retired nurse from Charlotte, North Carolina, 5 years on Zolpidem. She slept 8 hours every night and woke up feeling like she had not slept at all. Heavy, foggy, slow for hours after waking. She had come to accept this as simply what mornings felt like now. I asked Dorothy to add tart cherry juice before bed, 8 ounces within 2 hours of sleep. Tart cherries contain naturally occurring melatonin, alongside anthocyanins, that research suggests actually improve the architecture of sleep, increasing the proportion of deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep. The cleaning crew gets a longer window to work. I also asked her to add a tablespoon of sauerkraut, or a small glass of plain kefir daily. Research suggests gut bacteria play a role in GABA regulation through the gut-brain axis. Supporting those bacteria supports more balanced GABA activity over time. And 2 kiwi fruits before bed. I know it sounds like a lot of bedtime snacking, but kiwi works through a completely separate pathway, serotonin-mediated sleep regulation, that complements everything else without overlap. 3 weeks in, Dorothy sent me a message. She said, "Mornings feel different. Not perfect, but different." The heaviness she had accepted as permanent was lifting. 3 weeks. Tart cherries, kefir, kiwi. Nothing stopped. Everything supported. Medication number 1, the most surprising one, and the food already in your kitchen. I saved this one for last because when I tell people about it, They almost never see it coming. Proton pump inhibitors. PPIs. Omeprazole, Prilosec, pantoprazole, lansoprazole, taken for acid reflux, heartburn, GERD. Extraordinarily common. Many people have been on them for years, sometimes decades, without ever having a conversation with their doctor about long-term nutritional effects. Here is the connection. Your stomach acid does something most people never think about. It acts as a key that releases vitamin B12 from the proteins in food during digestion. Without adequate stomach acid, which PPIs dramatically reduce, B12 cannot be properly released from what you eat. Over months and years of PPI use, research suggests B12 levels can quietly decline, even in people eating plenty of B12-rich foods, because the key to releasing it is no longer working. And B12 deficiency in adults over 60 produces symptoms that are, I want you to hear this clearly, virtually identical to early dementia. Memory difficulty, slowed thinking, word-finding problems, confusion, fatigue. Many adults on long-term PPIs who are experiencing these symptoms have never had their B12 properly evaluated in the context of their medication use. Now here is the surprising part, the food. Eggs. I know, you were expecting something exotic, but here is why eggs specifically, and not just any B12-rich food. Research suggests the B12 in eggs is absorbed through a pathway that partially bypasses the stomach acid requirement. Unlike the B12 in meat, fish, or dairy, which requires the stomach acid that PPIs suppress, the B12 in eggs is bound to proteins that can be processed with less acid. Eggs are the exception to the PPI B12 problem. Most PPI users are eating B12-rich foods and getting less B12 than they think because their stomach acid cannot unlock it. Eggs give them a route around that lock. 2 to 3 eggs daily, soft poached or lightly scrambled, not hard-boiled, and pair them with plain Greek yogurt. The probiotics in Greek yogurt support gut bacteria involved in B12 metabolism, helping your body use whatever B12 does make it through. Together, they are the most practical, natural B12 support available for anyone on long-term PPI therapy. Most of you have both of these in your refrigerator right now. Let me make this as simple as possible. 5 medications, 5 brain mechanisms, 5 food responses. Antihistamines block acetylcholine. Eggs and sunflower seeds restore choline to keep production going. Statins may reduce CoQ10. Fatty fish and walnuts restore DHA and mitochondrial support. Beta blockers reduce blood pressure, including cerebral. Beetroot and spinach with vitamin C restore nitric oxide and keep brain vessels open. Sleep medications suppress deep sleep. Tart cherries, kefir, and kiwi restore sleep architecture and gut GABA balance. PPIs block B12 absorption. Eggs provide an acid-independent B12 pathway that bypasses the problem. What this looks like on an actual day. Morning, 2 soft poached eggs with spinach sautéed in olive oil. Small handful of sunflower seeds with your coffee. Afternoon, 7 or 8 walnut halves. A glass of water with lemon. If you had spinach at breakfast, extra vitamin C, extending the nitric oxide benefit. Dinner, fatty fish twice a week, drizzled with olive oil and lemon, alongside more leafy greens or a small glass of beetroot juice. Before bed, 8 ounces of tart cherry juice, 1 or 2 kiwi fruits, a tablespoon of sauerkraut, or a small glass of plain kefir. That is a real day. Real food. Real grocery store. No supplements required.
I want to ask you something before you go. Which of these medications are you or someone you love currently taking? And has your doctor or pharmacist ever had this conversation with you about what to eat alongside your prescriptions to protect your brain? Leave your answer below. Your name, your age, your city. Because I genuinely believe the comment section of this video is going to be filled with people saying, no, nobody ever told me this. Share this with someone you love who is 60 or 70 or 80 and takes daily medication. Not to frighten them, to give them something they can actually do starting tomorrow morning. Your brain has been working faithfully for decades, carrying your memories, your relationships, your knowledge, your sense of who you are. It is still working, still trying. And it does not need a miracle. It needs eggs in the morning and walnuts in the afternoon, and tart cherry juice before bed. That is manageable. That is real. And it starts tomorrow. Subscribe to After 50 Health. I am Dr. William Chen. Take good care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. One important reminder before you go, please speak with your physician before making any changes to your health routine. Never reduce or stop any medication without direct medical guidance. Everything shared in this video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for the personalized care of your own doctor.